To the Tracy Take. I am your co-host Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we will be breaking down the championship games that happened last night in the NFC and AFC. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, Ryan and we go live every Monday night and also on Wednesdays as well, unless if I guess one of us is traveling on vacation or we just don't want to. So, but we are making a lot more content coming out in 2023, and so we've been growing our community. We've seen great success growing our channel just from this year alone. So be sure to subscribe so you can see when we create new content. Like this video and also comment on this video and let us know your thoughts on yesterday's games. And Ryan, let's get into it. I need to practice that. I need to practice that a little bit more.
Yeah, it was a little bumpy, but hey,
it was a little bumpy, but hey,
yeah.
we got it there. It was like going through construction. It was like going on vacation through construction.
It wasn't as bad as the 49ers day yesterday, but
that was pretty. That's a good segue into. I think let's just go to talking about it. Yeah, that was just unfortunate. Like, I don't blame anyone on the 49ers team. That was just so unfortunate on how all the events transpired.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it was just you have the questionable catch by Devontae Smith.
Hell of an effort. That's one of those just like no matter what, like super athletic play.
Yeah, no. And like whether it was a catch or wasn't a catch, it was called a catch on the field, and so that's what you gotta roll with. So starting off with that, and then you have one good drive, go down, score a touchdown. Brock Purdy gets injured, and then Josh Johnson comes in, then he gets injured, and you basically have to play the second half without any ability to throw the ball.
Oh, and you're down 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and you're down 3 touchdowns because I think was it on the Josh Johnson concussion that there was the fumble?
No, the fumble, the one that I'm remembering. Maybe I also too just kind of started to phase out in the second half. But the fumble that scored the touchdown for the didn't score, but led to a touchdown was at the end of the second half.
Yeah, no,
it was 14-7, and Josh Johnson didn't get the concussion until the beginning of the second half.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a sack it was a hard hit. I didn't even realize. I actually honestly thought he hurt his arm because I saw the trainers were out there and the refs were talking to him. I thought he hurt his arm just like how Brock Purdy did, just the way he got hit and it snapped like forward. But no, it was the in that same motion though, him smacking his head against the ground and then him walking to the locker room. Okay. Which then, with everything that happened this season, the last thing that the NFL would want to see is the quarterback the next day fighting through a concussion, and the protocols weren't met. And so, because I think, and we're going to get into it, I think the NFL already has enough problems with fans complaining about how officiating went. The outcome of the games. But that's for a future conversation that we're going to get to here. But with this one, though, it was just really disappointing for the fans. We were talking about how excited we were for this game. And it is what it is. It's sports.
No, yeah. I mean, I can't remember a championship game where so many crucial players got injured. And
Fred Warner on like the second play. Had to come out. Like he came back in, but I was even thinking like, wow, that was absolutely insane that he that is huge loss. But luckily he was able to come back in, but he was probably banged up for the rest of the game.
No, I agree. One of the things that I actually do want to give a brief shout out to, the San Francisco defense, actually, if you think about it, they only allowed 10 second half points. And they were on the field a ton. I want to say the margin of possession was over 12 minutes.
Oh, it was insane.
Which is just like absolutely nuts. And if you think about it, to only give up 10 points in the second half, they literally only had 4 pass plays total, I think, in the second half. And one of those pass plays was from Christian McCaffrey. The other 2 were forward passes that didn't go past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is something to if you're a 49ers fan, that is a moral victory, I guess. I know you're not really looking for moral victories right now, but to me, it was impressive.
Yeah.
Watch that defense. But again, still, it was just so disappointing. I would have loved to have seen what the 49ers could have done with a healthy Brock Purdy and a healthy team, because I don't know if they win. It's a close game. At least there would be some finality to it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like it was almost like by default the Eagles got it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting too because it's definitely one of those like what could have been type moments. Because you're right, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way. And honestly, then too, the third touchdown, the one that ended the half of the Eagles got, it was off that weird just missed snap by Josh Johnson, it's hard to even put those points that the defense gave up on them just because they had such short field. It was at the 25 or something like that.
And
it was such short.
They had just come off a long drive. Yeah. So
yeah. But yeah, it's just a weird feeling. And we were even talking about it before. It's like to think about the 49ers season and what they've come through and now then with the news that Brock Purdy now has a torn UCL, which, and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Tommy John.
It is Tommy John.
Yeah. That's what I thought, but I'm so used to just seeing it on baseball. It's like needs Tommy John surgery.
It's Tommy John.
It just, once again, I don't have any concerns about them for next season. It all depends on who they're able to bring back. And who becomes free agents and everything. But I think a majority of their core, I'm pretty sure, is still staying there.
It is.
Christian McCaffrey, I think, is on a one.
No, he's staying. I think they traded and extended for him.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Let me double check that right here.
I want to say most of their core is coming back. One of the things I think that they did prove to like this season was their depth as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
They had, much like the NFC Championship game, had injuries, a litany of injuries all throughout the season. And it was very impressive to watch them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, maintain such a high level of play. Man, that's just such a tough ending for them. Like, it just really sucks that that's the way that it ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to, I guess the real conversation will be is who's going to be on like their main core. And all in all, like throughout their whole defense, they had a really good defense. But from what I'm looking at here, it looks like Fred Warner's still coming back. It looks like Trent Williams is obviously still on contract. A lot of the offensive pieces are still there. I guess Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Jimmy Ward, their free safety, also looks like he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, but also it's potential that
he's also almost 32.
Yeah. So, and also I think with how well the Niners seem to be able to develop their players, I think that they'll be okay in that position. Also, free safety too. You can find some talent there either through the draft or through developing players, or through free agency. I guess those are the only real avenues. But it's not like you're getting any guys from other football leagues. But the thing to me that I think that is most interesting is coming into this game. It's at least one of the three quarterbacks was probably going to be gone, especially Jimmy Garoppolo. And now he is a free agent. But now, coming back off the ankle injury, you still don't really know too much about Trey Lance. I mean, he's only played 1.5 games.
I think he hasn't even played 100 NFL snaps.
He can't be. I mean, he only has one full game, and then he got hurt in the first half of the second game of the season.
I think he played a game last year, but
that's different. Yeah. But you know what you have in Brock Purdy, but when is he going to be available? If he gets Tommy John, I mean, that's 6 months. And then, it's pushing towards the start of the new season. depending on when full rehab comes about. So I'm almost wondering, like, do you sign? I mean, they probably won't be able to afford him, but do you try and keep Jimmy G around, have that veteran experience just in case, because you know what you have with him, and then just roll with 3 quarterbacks?
No, I think the Jimmy train has sailed,
and you're just going to roll in with 2 young quarterbacks that are coming off season-ending injuries. You know, like Brock Purdy's. Yeah, well, Brock Purdy's
it's a 6-month recovery.
It's season-ending. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess. To me, I think with Brock Purdy, he won 8 games in a row, 7 games in a row. And then obviously with the loss to Philadelphia, however, that one has an asterisk on it for San Francisco. So for that one, I just think that's a tough situation to move on from, because you have a young guy who's shown the ability to run and succeed in the offense that you run, and that is what I think they thought they had in Trey Lance. And I think when you have a guy like that, even if it's just the potential, I think you go all in on that, because Jimmy G is going to be way too expensive for this team to keep around as a third guy.
And just with that point, there's plenty of teams who might not be able to draft a quarterback this year that's ready to start, and Niners do not want to get into a bidding war for a backup quarterback. But to them, on what would be a backup quarterback, like if the Raiders go and pay him $20 million, it'd be tough for the Niners to be like, okay, we'll pay you $20.5 million. It's not worth it.
It's a potential third quarterback on your depth chart. No, I agree. Also, if you were Jimmy G and you were like, okay, well, the Raiders are going to pay me $18 million, and even if the 49ers are like, well, we'll pay you $22 million. Well, you're going to pay me $22 million to sit behind Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. It's like the only way I will ever see the field is if both of those guys get injured, because they already started Trey Lance over him this year, and then he got hurt. And then they actually could have brought Jimmy Garoppolo back in the last week of the season, but they chose not to because they had Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. So to me, that ship has sailed. So
and it was interesting to think about, because it was almost a definite. But then now with this injury with Brock, it was like, I was just thinking about it. It's like, what are their options now? Because we still don't know with Trey Lance. Don't know how long this is going to be. And it's possible Brock Purdy might not be the same guy coming back as what he was.
I want to say this Tommy John surgery is pretty like you get back to pretty much 100%.
Well, and I think it's different for quarterbacks than it is for MLB pitchers. MLB pitchers, I mean, if you lose a couple miles per hour on your fastball, that's kind of a big deal. Or a couple miles per hour on your slider and everything. However, it's quarterback. If you lose, I mean, you can't throw it 65 yards. You can only throw it 62 yards. It's not as big a deal. It's the accuracy within that, obviously 5 to 25 yard range, which I think is the much more important worry for these guys. Also, can you throw it across the field, essentially, like from one hash mark over to the other sideline? And so it's more, though, just coming back from the rehab, coming back. I mean, so it's if you got it on February 1st, 6 months, what's that? August 1st?
Yeah.
The
training camp starts late July. So, like, maybe he'll miss a couple weeks of training camp, but he's missing all of mini camp, all of summer workouts leading up to that. And granted, he can be there, and he'll probably be going through a sort of a rehab process on his own and at the facility. So I don't know. I mean, of all the teams for this to happen to, the 49ers have showed that they're probably the most adaptable team in the NFL with all the injuries that they've had this year. So,
it's like what we talked about, though, when Brock Purdy started playing in it. It's the way that this offense is run. Like, it's not it's not all about the QB. Like, if Patrick Mahomes, if that wasn't a sprained ankle that he got, that was a broken ankle, Chad Henne can come in, but it definitely limits the offense on what they can do.
I'm going to cut the San Francisco talk short here, and I have a video that just came in my head, and I'm going to start it right now. Does this Brock Purdy injury open up the door for Tom Brady to come to San Francisco? Because I think it actually might.
Like, well, so
it would be one season. Brock Purdy doesn't have to rush back in recovery. And then you have, when Brock Purdy is ready, you have him sit behind Tom Brady for a season.
Do you just trade Trey Lance? Then I guess in that scenario.
I mean, at that point, he's just he's another asset that you have. You can trade him. I'm sure there is a team that would love to have Trey Lance.
I mean, I would think. I mean, I'm thinking like the Texans or the Colts. Like, I'll give you my first round pick.
Yeah,
for Trey Lance.
I mean, even like the Falcons sitting at 8.
Yeah. Actually, I think he'd fit really well into Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah, and so I think there is now that there are a lot of questions about the quarterback situation going into next year. If they're going to pay a quarterback, I think Tom Brady makes the most sense. Kyle Shanahan and Brady have wanted to work together in the past. Tom Brady's from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he would absolutely he would absolutely destroy defenses in that offense. You have arguably the best offensive line in the league. Maybe just behind the Eagles' offensive line. You have top 3 tight end you're throwing to. You'd have Chris McCaffrey in the backfield, Deebo Samuel on one side, Brandon Ayuk on the other, and you can probably go get another receiver to be like, hey, go be in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
In this draft, you could do that. If you trade Trey Lance to
if you trade
Atlanta at 8,
you can get all the receivers.
Jordan Addison, he's a premier.
I would get Jackson Smith and Njigba.
He's like Julian Edelman on steroids. That is either of those guys would be great in a Shanahan system.
Shanahan would have a lot of fun with Jackson Smith and Njigba. That would be absolutely insane. I mean, and you know what? It's a fair point to think about too. Is if Tom Brady would want to go there, and it's not like he needs the money. He'll probably take whatever money. To
play for his childhood team, he took pay cuts in New England so they could go out and sign more defensive players.
I think what was he getting paid in Tampa? I don't think it was 20. That much. Yes, I mean he's getting paid 20. I mean, shoot, you have Dak Prescott, who thought 40 wasn't enough. Russell Wilson got 40 something.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the millions of dollars. Well, except I mean his wife was a billionaire, so. That might have changed.
She wasn't a billionaire, but she was close. Tom is not hurting for cash.
I thought she was a billionaire.
No, together they were worth like $700 or $800 million.
Oh, okay.
Now they're apart.
No, they don't need the cash. Shoot, I mean, I'll say, if you're smart with your money, none of these guys need the cash. That's a totally different conversation. Yeah. But you're getting paid millions of dollars. A lot of these guys, not a lot of the guys, but a majority of the guys are getting paid 7 to 8 figures to play a game. Like you shouldn't really have to work if you're smart with your money and have a good career.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady's been smart with his money, but also he has a lot of sponsorship money as well. So
yeah.
But we're going down a totally different route. Tom Brady though, to the 49ers, it's a fair point. I mean, have Brock Purdy learn, and also let's see what his arm would be like. But it is absolutely an interesting theory to happen. Because and I will say, I was hard on Tom in the middle of the year, but I wasn't able to watch too many of his games. But at the end, though, you look at his stats and you still look at how he's throwing the ball. It's like he still looks good. His offensive line, he had no help.
Yeah,
at all.
None at all. And he still completed over 63% of his passes for over 4,500 yards for 30 plus touchdowns to 12 interceptions. I'm sorry, but you put that on the San Francisco 49ers, They probably win yesterday.
Well, and he has a huge improvement in defense as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's going to be an interesting development to watch. I think as the off season begins. But you're right, because it's a fair point though. If you need to clear room, hey, and you know what's actually true is I don't know what the cap hit would be like for trading rookies. But if you're going to trade someone, Trey Lance probably has more value, but he would clear off more cap space.
Oh yeah,
I mean
he was being the number 3 overall pick. I think he's making $8 million. Like his cap hit's around $8 million.
Yeah. So, and with rookies, that's not any dead cap, right? If you trade them.
No, you don't really have dead cap if you trade them because the contract transfers from team to team.
Okay.
Yeah. You only have dead cap when you cut players.
Maybe that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, or release players.
Well, I think I would need to look into it, but I thought because I know there was like Matt. Oh,
he has
no,
$9.5 million cap hit,
and that's true. I think where dead cap also does come into play. If you trade guys, is if you like move their salary around. So like to make space, you give them a signing bonus, and essentially it's like we give you $10 million now, and then you're pushing that $10 million to the next season, or something along those lines.
Yeah, you can manipulate numbers and whatnot, but
yeah. So the Saints have been doing it for years. Saints have been doing it since Sean Payton was paying players to hurt people. But that's an interesting idea because you're right. You're going to have two young quarterbacks coming off devastating injuries. How are they going to bounce back? You don't know. And then you're going to have Tom Brady, who wants. I honestly think he wants one more legit shot at a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I think if he wins, like let's go down this scenario. Let's finish this up here. Is if Tom Brady goes to San Francisco, they win a Super Bowl. I think he's done. I think he wants to ride off into the sunset, and he absolutely could. Like he 100% could. You go look at that offensive line. You go look at all the weapons that they have right there. One, then just let alone. I mean, Kyle Shanahan. I mean, huge Matt Ryan fan, so don't want to disparage him when I say this, but he made Matt Ryan into an MVP. They had a great year, and now you're giving him Tom Brady. Like, I think that they could do wonders. I think they both know what they could do in that scenario.
Yeah.
So
you get one shot at it, most likely, unless you convince Tom to play longer. But man, would that be something to watch?
Well, it's what he did with Tampa as well. So, like, if he goes down the Tom Brady went into Tampa at the perfect situation. All those young players were in their prime. They defensive wise, offensive wise as well. That Tampa Bay team was really good the season before Tom got there. It's just that Jameis Winston sucked and had 30 interceptions. Yeah. You know, so didn't Jameis Winston that season throw for like 5,000 yards or something along those lines?
Yeah, they were 9-7. Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards. In the last 8 games, they had the number 1 defense in football.
Yeah. So Tom Brady went into that team, and once when they got into a rhythm, they were essentially unstoppable.
Yeah.
Well, they were because they won the Super Bowl and everything.
Yeah.
So that defense was great. So he would now be doing essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Going into San Francisco with that. So it would be interesting. It would definitely be interesting and something to dream about for all the Tom Brady fans to dream about going in to the offseason.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to say is to who's the left tackle for the 49ers?
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams. What a choke slam. That was beautiful.
I think he's got a WWE contract in his future.
I was just about to say he took that one from The Undertaker. Uncle Mark
what
is so proud.
Massive human being.
Oh yeah, 6'5",
I mean,
like 325.
I think he's bigger than that. I think he's like 6'7".
No, he's 6'5", 325.
Jeez,
like if you build a left tackle in Madden, that is Trent Williams.
Yeah,
he has like 34.5-inch arms, like just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I saw something. Who was it? It was a little YouTube short or TikTok. It's like one of the guys said, or it's like someone on the internet said, like, oh, like Trent Williams, he's tipping his plays. When he stands like this, it's a pass play. When he stands like this, it's a run play. And then there was who was the edge rusher, but he talked about it. He's like, so it's like, I'm within 40 seconds of like the play clock, it's like we are trying to read so much of what the offense is doing, and we're trying to figure out our own stunts and which is the right stunt. Are we in the right zone, or do we need to be in man? And I'm trying to figure out if I need to drop back or if I'm blitzing, who's blitzing, where is everyone blitzing, understanding what the running back is doing, where they're at. And after all of that, maybe I have a second to look at what Trent Williams is doing. And even then, you can't get past the guy. Like it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's so dude's a beast. I mean, he's up there, obviously top left tackle. I mean, is he the highest paid left tackle?
Yeah.
As well. So. Yeah. No, I think he'll gladly give up a couple of his bucks for whatever fine comes his way to get rid of that. So because it just kind of wrap up this game. We haven't even talked about the Eagles, but it's kind of like there's nothing really to critique or talk about the Eagles too much. They kind of had like a free pass, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, they absolutely shellacked the Giants. Then they had this game. They've kind of had a pretty easy road. Like,
they have.
All the way in. And I think that's unfair to say to the Eagles because they did have to show up and beat the Giants, and they absolutely beat the Giants. But like, I don't think their starters played in the fourth quarter of that game.
They did not play.
Any starter that played in the second half, in the fourth quarter of this game, the 49ers game, didn't try hard at all. It was going through the motions.
Yeah. And they also knew they literally could not throw it.
Yeah. Only guy that might have had to take an ice bath after the game was whoever Trent Williams threw down. That might be the only guy that had to take an ice bath after that game. But
anyways, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs versus Cincinnati Bengals. Another classic. Every time these teams meet, it's a classic.
We really need to appreciate the next decade of football, because there's going to be a bunch of more games like that. And then you have Josh Allen, and you still Josh Allen hopefully is going to still be in the mix. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's going to be up there. Justin Herbert now has a new offensive coordinator who we like. And so hopefully he's also now in the mix. The AFC division is going to be ridiculous for the next decade. Oh, sorry, conference. Yeah. So there's going to be some great AFC conference championship games. Of this next decade.
So me being a Patriots fan, I look at the AFC and like, okay, Patriots outside looking in. There's a lot of rumors that the Jets are going to get Aaron Rodgers. So then you're throwing another great quarterback in the mix, right? And then it's just, oh my God. Like,
that's true. Nathaniel Hackett's the OC, right? At the Jets now?
Yeah. And like, there's a lot of leak sources saying that the Jets are trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers, and that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers are wanting to part ways.
Well, how funny would that be too, of history repeating itself? That's where Brett Favre went.
Well, he went to the Vikings first, and then
no, he went to the Jets and then the Vikings. I'll double check. Yeah, I'll double check. But I'm pretty sure he went to the Jets for 1 year and then went to the Vikings.
No, he went to he was with the Vikings with Adrian Peterson right after.
Yeah, and that was in like 08, 09.
I guess he did go to the Jets.
Yeah, he went to the Jets, and then the Vikings.
He was only at the Jets for a year.
Yeah, he was only there for a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then 2 years within Minnesota. And
so the NFC Championship game with him, though. That's impressive.
They should have gone to the Super Bowl, but let's not bring that up to all of our Minnesota Vikings viewers. You don't remember the play that was the play when he got leveled, a classic Brett Favre hit while being thrown, but he threw into triple coverage. Like the entire Saints sideline was guarding the guy that he was trying to throw to. That's hyperbolic, but it's legendary because it's like I think they were in field goal range or really close to field goal range, and they got picked. Pretty sure went to overtime and the Saints won. Or the Saints got the ball, went down, kicked the field goal, and then that's what led to the Saints beating the Colts in the next Super Bowl or a couple weeks later. Yeah, but anyways, speaking of great championship games, but yeah, this was a great game between the Bengals and the Chiefs. A lot of pregame pregame trash talk going on, and not even like on the field, just like between cities.
Yeah.
Which I've never been a big fan of because maybe I'm not a big trash talk, but just in the case of like what happened now, you have to sit there and eat your words. And then everyone who you're trash talking, like Travis Kelce has every right to call it the Cincinnati mayor for calling it what Burrowland instead of Burrowhead. That's it. Yeah. So, and yeah, it was an absolute great game. I guess let's just kind of get straight into it. What are your thoughts on the fourth quarter?
So I don't really think the officials had a huge outcome on the game.
Hot take. I like it.
So that 3rd and 9 that was super controversial that everyone's talking about. One, the referee did run on the field before the play started. Right?
Yeah.
It was so loud you literally could not hear the whistle. And so instead of getting hit by Travis Kelce, he ran off the field. So that did happen. I agree the play played out. They did not get the first down. But then 4 plays later, they punted anyways.
Yeah.
And so okay, maybe you miss like a minute of time. And I guess that minute is fairly crucial come the end. But you can't put that on the officials. The Eli Apple holding was a holding. It might have been maybe a little ticky-tack, but by definition, that is a hold. Because both guys were playing physical. So
I can agree about like the Eli Apple call, and also the ref. He did seem like he was coming in and blowing his whistle before the play got snapped and was very loud. However, though, where I'll criticize the NFL is why is it the far back left judge that is the one that then all of a sudden, if crowd noise is an issue, and then why is it not the head referee who is right there that can immediately come in and call and stop the play?
Because that ref is the one that's assigned to manage the.
Okay, well then
I agree. Why that one? Also, why not notify all referees?
Yeah,
not
especially
just that one,
because they all can communicate through their headset. Yeah. So then for the huge confusion, and then at the same time, and this is where it's like why you keep blowing the whistle, especially like on a pre-snap penalty. You need to keep blowing the whistle, and then people will stop. It's like you're just trying to do your job as well. And I know they don't want anyone to get hurt, but it avoids confusion like that. Then at the same time, especially once the play is over, then you blow the whistle a bunch. So then that's where the refs really messed up. It just because of maybe they did eventually get the call right, but then when both special teams came out and then they decided to make the play, it's like, what are we doing? Why was it not immediately that back judge? Because in that video, you're right, he stops though, and the play keeps going, and then he finishes in. But there's no other dead whistle. And a lot of times when there's a penalty on the field, they'll blow the whistle a bunch to get the attention of everybody. Like, hey, hold up, like we're redoing the play. Yeah. And in that case, it wouldn't have been nearly as big a deal. It's like clock. Like we need to get the clock right.
Yeah.
But then I will say, and I'm curious though, because I haven't really full-fledged out this thought though at the same time. But if the play, if it gets buzzed down, okay, hold on, wait a second, and then the ref starts to blow his whistle as the play starts, it's kind of a tie goes to the runner situation. Which one should go first? Because I mean, you can always because if the issue was the clock, you can always just readjust it at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think the issue was, right, it was a running clock when it should have been a dead clock, like clock starts on the snap. So why couldn't they just adjust it? Like it was just a couple seconds. But they just kind of, I think, botched the whole optics of the whole thing and made it look – it fed all the conspiracies of like the NFL is rigged and everything like that. I'm not saying that it's not, but this is some pretty damn good evidence to to help these people. like say that it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it looks bad in the NFL. It also adds another piece of wood on the fire of just the absolute abysmal officiating that has taken place this season. Like, I don't know why it just keeps seeming to get worse and worse and worse, no matter like how much they seem to crack down on it. But oh my gosh, like it is just not good.
And now it's under a microscope too. It's like,
Yeah,
I can understand like when it was like missed holding penalties. It's like and that was the big issue. It's like, okay, I can get that because I'm kind of under the belief that there's holding on nearly every single play. It's just kind of, I guess, can kind of be how the severity of it, and also there's like, I guess, a correct way to hold.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like if it's in between the pads and everything right here, but then once you get on the shoulder pads and start pulling this way, that's a hold you got to call.
yeah.
And maybe there was some on that last play that we're about to get to with the late hit out of bounds. But then you call that one, but then there's so many, I'm sure, misholdings throughout the entire game that we all just missed, or that they were all just there. And so, but but back to any with the officiating though, it has just been I hope the Super Bowl's great so people can kind of forget about it. But if there was like a theme of this season, it seems like it's officiating, roughing the ref is like what this season should almost be called.
I saw a meme, and I forget the ref's name, but it was like ref so-and-so is the first ever referee to win an AFC Championship MVP. And it's just like these guys, they play all season long. And Tony Romo was talking about it during the game, but he was like, these guys play all season long knowing that their season is going to come down to 9 minutes in the fourth quarter of the AFC Championship game. Right? And it's like, it's so disheartening that these referees have such a big impact on it. And this game in particular, I think there's a lot of holes to be poked in the "we got screwed" crowd. And that's my thing. Kind of to move on now with the penalty that you just mentioned, the late hit out of bounds. That's a really tough spot to be in if you're Joseph Osai. Because if you slow down and he gets around that guy, he's going for another 10, 15 yards.
Are you talking about like a potential scenario?
Yeah.
He busts his butt like to make him have to go. Like he was doing his best to make him have to go around as long as possible. What's it called? Going around the edge. Yeah. Setting the edge. My dog has a lot of opinions on this. But that moment though is like you have a big guy going as fast as he possibly can, and for someone like Mahomes, like that was like above average speed for him, but he still has control of his body. Asai lost all control of his body because he's just trying to get him out of bounds, trying to do what he can for the team. And it's so sad too because like Jim Nantz and Tony Romo even called Asai out about how great of a game he's had. And I remember reviewing his film because he was.
You liked him a lot coming out of the draft.
I liked him a lot coming out of and he's great. And it just sucks that it came down to that, and it was the right call. I mean, Mahomes was two steps out of bounds. And then and we're ragging on the NFL. I want to rag on all TV producers. I hate, and this is like all things. And shoot, I could say Adam Morrison, and probably what a lot of people remember is him crying on the basketball court in March Madness after Gonzaga lost in like the mid 2000s. And it's like, and they zoom in on his face. And then they did the same thing with the side. They just kept showing this guy crying. When Aaron Rodgers and the Packers lost the Lions, you have these 3 or 4 cameras like right around him. Then you have a bunch of photographers like right in his face as he's walking off. And it's like, I don't want to see that stuff. You know, we both played sports. Those moments suck. Like I couldn't even imagine like that feeling because I would just want to hit the crap out of all of those guys.
Oh.
Like, get out of my way. Like, I don't want
That was the
you. I don't
Devontae
want
Adams
you in
thing.
my face.
There was the photographer. So Devontae Adams dropped the game-winning catch, would have set up a field goal to win. And there was against Kansas City, and there was the photographer who got in his way in the tunnel, and he pushed him over and broke his camera.
Yeah,
like
and
I don't blame Devontae Adams
at
all in
at
that
all.
scenario.
Like, people are giving him crap, but it's like, and the balls on people to be upset at Adams or anyone else in that moment. Like, you don't understand what it's like. It's like I'm in sales. If I butcher a sales presentation and I don't get the sale because of it, and my company doesn't go down, it like doesn't get that profit, I'm missing out on so much. I look awful. Like, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. And so the last thing I want to do is then have a photographer come in my face. Tyler, what happened in that sales meeting? I'm like, I don't want to talk to you, some random stranger.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
All.
Who's just trying to take a picture to sell for the headlines that are going to be out.
Yeah, that's great. He can do it from the stands. He can do it from wherever he was standing, not in the way of the locker room.
Yeah,
you know.
And that for me, I remember I was sitting there watching it with my girlfriend on the sofa, and I was like, "This is like horrible. Take the cameras off this man. Show the team celebrating on the field. Nobody wants to look at this guy crying on the bench."
Yeah, like, this isn't The Bachelor. I don't want to see the girl that got broken up with. I want to see the girl who got the rose. Like, this isn't drama. I mean, like, let's show the team that won the game. Like, I don't want to see people crying.
And like, in that play will forever go down as the highlight or low light, depending on who you're rooting for, of that game. And I just feel bad for him because that was a hustle play. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't the choke slam in the previous championship game by Trent Williams. It was a hustle play. He's trying to get there, set the edge to keep him from getting in.
It wasn't
it's just sad.
Yeah, it wasn't a Quay Walker-esque where you push the opposing team's trainer.
No,
where you're like just like a bonehead play. But another, we've talked so much about this as well. But and another thing on top of that is, like, there's so, I mean, how many plays were there in that game? Like 170 different plays, something like that.
Yeah,
didn't just come down to one. How many times did Joe Burrow get sacked? I mean, at least half a dozen times.
He had 5. He got sacked 5 times in the first half.
Okay, so it's close. And then how many pressures? And 5 times in the first half?
Yeah, they had 4 in the first 3. He got sacked on 3 plays in a row.
So it's like,
or 3 pass plays in a row. Sorry.
Like, I mean, and it's a fair conversation. We're talking about injuries with the 49ers. Fair conversation. What would the Bengals offense have been like if they were fully healthy? But then still, though, it's like you still have to protect the quarterback. You know, if Joe Burrow has some time, and we saw how deadly he could be, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both had some games. It could have been a much different outcome, you know, if they were able to protect Joe Burrow. So but because even then, I think the defense did well against Patrick Mahomes.
No, they did. They did great. Patrick Mahomes was not 100% clearly. No. You really started to see it as the game wore on.
Yeah.
And it'll be curious to see what he does against.
Well, I think he'll be fine for the Super Bowl. I mean, 2 weeks is, I think, enough time for him to get ready. And so, what I'm curious, though, in talking with the Chiefs a little bit, obviously Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end to play the game. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but I think Jerick McKinnon has really come on and is having a great season. Outside of that, though, I mean, they have really good weapons. I think that can contribute, but they don't have, like, if Travis Kelce wasn't such a great tight end, they don't have a lethal weapon outside of that. They have good pieces, yes, but it's like you look at the Bengals. They have, you know, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and then they have good role players to go along with that can be effective, like Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst. I don't know if you want to throw Joe Mixon in there or not, because I mean he's really good. Yeah.
To me, I look at it, Mahomes. Okay, I was listening to Dan Orlovsky today talking about Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes, and just kind of like Joe Burrow does textbook quarterback things so freaking well. Like he's one of the best, if not the best, just textbook quarterbacks in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes does a lot of things that like you don't want to like teach upcoming quarterbacks, like throwing off platform throws,
throwing left-handed.
throwing left-handed as you're being tackled. Like
what was the one he had a touchdown pass, I think, to Clyde Edwards-Helaire against Tampa Bay, where he like juked and then just like Steph Curry lobbed it like to the basket, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire caught it.
A finger roll with the football. Like it was just stupid. You don't typically want people to do that. However, with Mahomes, he does those things so well. I think it allows him to get away with a lot of lack. I say lack in personnel because I still think they have good personnel. It's just not elite. It allows them to get away with that because no matter what situation they're in, Mahomes can scramble and find an open person. Even in Super Bowl, 50? Was that 55?
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think it would have been best incompletion I've ever seen.
He was doing that and then hitting his receivers in the face mask, throwing sideways, and it's like
no, he had the one I'm talking about was when he threw the ball, he was parallel to the ground. His whole body was in the air, parallel to the ground, and he's throwing it sidearm style, or I would say like submarine style.
I want to say on that throw, he hit either Tyreek Hill or Mecole Hardman in the face.
It was close. It was an incompletion, but it was one he scrambled so well, and then finally, when he had to throw it, as I said, he was parallel, and it was. They still, I think, it's like one of their promos. They still showed that throw.
Because it's nuts. Yeah. And so, for me, I'm going to say something, but let me finish my whole thought. It reminds me of when I was watching Tom Brady and the Patriots in the early 2000 teens. Right? Like he's throwing for almost 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns to Julian Edelman, Brandon LaFell, Danny Amendola, and then like Michael Huminawanui. Like none of those weapons are elite, but he does things that no other quarterback can do.
Did you make that name up, or is that actually a guy's name?
That was actually a guy's name.
I thought like if you just made that up, that was very impressive.
Michael Huminawanui, if you can spell it, look it up. He played for the Patriots. And so to me, that's what Mahomes allows him to do because he's so good at getting the football to his receivers. They don't need the Tyreek Hills or the Sammy Watkins guys that can consistently win on the outside because they just don't need to. And Travis Kelce draws a lot of the coverage inside. A lot of times he's double covered or at the very least getting chipped, which helps eliminate some of the pass rush. And so like one of the things that they did well yesterday was they got the ball horizontally really well, which spaced out the Bengals defense. They just do things that they can get away with that lack in personnel. Where I really think the Eagles might get them though is on the other side. The Eagles offense I think is just going to be way too physical. And so I do like Kansas City's front seven, but we haven't really seen any defense be able to match up with Philadelphia on a physical level. So
and that's where on the flip side, the Eagles offensively, A.J. Brown on one side, Devontae Smith on the other. Dallas good there. Not as good as Travis Kelce, but it's like in fantasy. It's like he
does enough.
He does enough.
Yeah.
He does more than enough. I was like he's a top 10 tight end in the league for sure.
Yeah.
And that's just throwing the ball. And you still have Quez Watkins as well that can come in. Running the ball, though, is where this Eagles offense so well, and the offensive line can get so much push. I'm struggling to see scenarios where Kansas City can stop this Eagles offense consistently.
Yeah.
We saw it even against, of course, it was just the first drive, but we also did see it multiple times, though. Eagles, I think they had 3 touchdowns, right, where they went like 75 to 65 yards, where it was just run It was just a nice, succinct drive against this 49ers defense that I think everyone considered was probably up there as one of the best defenses in the league. A lot of things change into the game, obviously, with the quarterback offensively for the 49ers, but still, they just went down, just methodically, just took down the clock, scored 7 points, and then made it difficult for them to score.
Yeah, no, so. I mean, yeah. And so that I think is going to be a really interesting matchup going into the Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to talk a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, hard way to lose a game off a hustle play that also was a little bit of a bonehead penalty. Just penalties that you cannot have in a game. And so for me, that's a tough way to lose a game. I feel for Joseph Osai. He was just trying to make a play for his team. And it kind of bit him. So
yeah. Well, so with the Bengals, as they enter the offseason, kind of what do you think they need to address? I'm sure to keep bolstering that offensive line, but I need to see who would not be coming back. I do think that they need some secondary help because Jesse Bates is hitting free agency. Eli Apple, it's unrestricted. Eli Apple, I don't think is going to be your guy. I don't think he's going to become your guy at all.
No, he's not. He's like 29 too. He's hit his ceiling.
Yeah. So secondary, I think, is going to be a big must, and that's one of the things that we talked about that they needed to address coming into this season, where it's kind of overshadowed because of how good their front seven was. And that I think is going to be the big thing that they're going to address.
They need to retool that offensive line a little bit. They made a lot of improvements from last season to this year. However, you could really see that they still just don't have the depth there. I
think that's the better way to say it. Retool. I think that they got the offensive line. We saw what they were able to do in the second half of that season. They did not have their offensive line woes. Everyone was in check. When they started to have it was, I think, week 17, 18, and then first round of the playoffs. Yeah, they lost an offensive lineman in every game.
In every game, yeah.
That's where. So I think depth is where they really need to focus on.
Yeah, and then so they have two major positions I think that they need to focus on. Well, I guess 3: cornerback, safety, and offensive line. Okay, that's doable. You can retool that in free agency in the draft. This is a great cornerback class coming up. We haven't talked too much about the draft yet, but a ton of length on the outside at corner. I mean, you can find a 6'2", 200-pound corner in just about every spot of the draft. And obviously they become more and more projects as you get later on, but same thing with offensive tackles. There's a ton of guys at the Shrine Bowl that project as offensive tackles at the next level based off of pure size that are playing well. And if they don't project well, you can kick them into guard, which is also something that Cincinnati kind of needs. To me, Cincinnati is the team to beat next year because it's looking like Kansas City is going to lose Orlando Brown and one other offensive lineman. And I just think Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's going to be going into his 4th year. You're going to have Jamar Chase going into his 3rd. T. Higgins could potentially be traded. But if they do trade him, I would assume that they're going to try to replace him with somebody else.
It'd be tough to get rid of T. Higgins. Well, being honest.
But if you have somebody like the Patriots, be like, all right, we'll give you pick 14 and 76 for T. Higgins and your second.
Yeah. And then I guess then you could get a Jackson Smith or a Quentin Johnson if they're still available or something like that. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, I can see it.
And so that for me, also too, he's going into a contract year. So this is really the last time you'll get the opportunity to trade him.
Well, and that's a good point too, because there's definitely a lot of talks because Joe Burrow would want to stay in Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow just kind of wants to go to the highest bidder, which in Cincinnati is going to have the first opportunity.
Well, Joe Burrow's already said he wants to stay in Cincinnati his whole career.
True. I mean, they all say that though, but now I think it's you kind of want to get into a bidding war. I'm not saying he doesn't want to do that, but it's like
okay,
like Dak Prescott says he wants to be with the Ravens, with the Cowboys, but he like, but he wants more money. Lamar Jackson wants to be in Baltimore, but it's not enough money. So, like, and that's where to me, it's just it's just. I think he'll go to the highest bidder. So which I'm sure Cincinnati will be the highest bidder, but it won't be without some.
Cincinnati would be foolish to let him leave.
Yeah.
And so for me, Cincinnati, they're going to have him for at least 2 years because you're definitely picking up his 5th-year option. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm picking up the 5th year and I'm extending him after next season. I'm not waiting for that 5th year to roll around to give other teams the opportunity to bid on him. And so, Cincinnati, I think, is in a really good place. I think they got a little unlucky. One, they had a really slow start to the season. And then that Joseph Ossai penalty was the backbreaker. There was some questionable officiating, but I don't think it was enough to really say that it influenced the outcome of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to say. It's just another one of those, just kind of wrapping up, that it's just the officiating. It's just an annoying thing. It's been something every single week. The roughing the passers have gone ridiculous. Then you have, it's not even like the roughing the passer where it's like, it's a subjective call. It's just like optically, it's like, what the hell is going on? Like this is, and not to bring money into it, but you know how much money is going into this, and now it seems like you guys don't know what you're doing. Like it's like it needs to be perfect. Like not like close enough. Like no, it needs to be perfect. People's careers and livelihoods are on the line in a lot of aspects, like not just football. So
I wouldn't say it needs to be perfect because no matter what, you're going to have human error involved. You need to be.
Yeah.
There should not be a referee controversy every week. You should maybe have 2 or 3 all year that were like, that was a horrible no call or that was a horrible call.
Yeah. By perfect, I meant like the administration stuff, like managing the clock, like what to do in certain situations.
This isn't
figuring out what to do on what I will say, figuring out some things like roughing the passer, like figure out it should be perfect. Like it should be obvious what roughing the passer is and what roughing the passer isn't, not these ticky-tack type fouls. So actually I also stand by what I said. Like it should be perfect. Like it is a game. Like there needs to be set rules, not subjective rules that seem to be different everywhere you go, And so
I agree. I agree. Like, and that's where I get frustrated is, to me, I understand sometimes the no calls on like what should be pass interference, right? Like they're hand fighting. Maybe the one guy gets a little over aggressive and it's like, all right, that's a no call. Right. But the quarterback gets hit in the pocket. The guy has nowhere else to go but to land on top of him. Yet he still braces. He still tries to take his weight off. All right, well, you're going to tack on 15 yards for that? Like, that's absurd. Mm-hmm. I saw last night Chris Jones had Joe Burrow wrapped up for one of his sacks, and he literally set him on the ground.
No, I saw that. Well,
instead of tackling him. And I'm like, that's ridiculous that he has to consciously be like, I cannot tackle him. I'm just going to grab him and set him down.
Well, I know which play you're talking about because it was like mutually understood. It's like Chris Jones, like I think Joe Burrow knew the pressure was there, and I think Joe Burrow,
he just kind of tucked.
It's like he took a slide in the pocket. It's like he's like, okay, I'm just like please don't hurt me. Which, and you know what? It's like I would rather see that than the opposite, where it's like Chris Jones like gets him up and then picks him up and then slams him down on the ground and hurts Joe Burrow in a completely unnecessary tackle. I'd rather see that and be like, okay, that's a sack. It's like, okay, it was a good play on Chris Jones.
I know what play you're talking about. This wasn't that one. This one was in the first.
Oh, half. Okay, never mind.
The one you're talking about was in the second. So Chris Jones kind of came around the left edge, and Joe Burrow was there. So Joe Burrow tried to kind of run to his left, but Chris Jones was already going to get him. So Chris Jones just grabbed him and then just like set him down. Like it wasn't the one where he was like face to face.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And so I just laugh like that is something that we've had to talk about. So yeah. All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. It doesn't look like we have any comments. So if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so we can send you guys a notification every time we go live. We do try to go live every Monday and Wednesday. Sometimes more, sometimes less, just depends on the week. But other than that, we will see you guys next time.